You wake up in a crashed spaceship, remember nothing, and you notice that the other colonists from your ship are either dead or still stored. Pretty uncomfortable situation, isn't it? At least you've been reprinted, but what happened to the others? Why are you even here? In this video I will try to answer these questions. Humanity was in a huge crisis. The Trans-System Federation was at war with the Kharaa system. Alterra launched multiple spaceships out of Transgov space to create colonies as backups in case everything goes wrong, and ISV Cicada was one of these spaceships. 40,000 human consciousnesses were stored on board and waiting to be reprinted into a new body, and you were one of them. Suddenly, the Cicada made an unplanned phasegate jump and crash-landed on an unknown moon. The first pioneers were reprinted and started colonizing this alien world, which they named Proteus. The first wave of colonists built Camp 1. Later, after being reprinted and totally reset, they built Old Habitat and the other outposts. They were living here and studying the moon, but none of them knew how they got here. Nahema was one of the 26 known reprinted colonists, and she had a pretty interesting theory. She said that there were no phasegates on the way, so the Cicada probably found an alien phasegate. They faced many problems. The water was full of metal and that wasn't really healthy. And of course there was the Macefield syndrome. The Macefield caused hallucinations and it slowly changed the pioneers. They couldn't eat the alien fishes, that was also a huge problem. It took a little bit of time, but Anita found out how to adapt the alien food. There's a virus in the water named Proteus. How it works is, it spreads and changes the DNA of the different creatures, and it also collects the DNA of the infected life form. It stores the stolen genetics in angel combs, and these angel combs can be used for changing your own genetics and adapting. One of the colonists, Zip, was really sick. She was making small visits to the hot caves. They thought it was therapeutic, but one day she didn't return. That was 245,000 hours ago. On the fourth day, she was reprinted at Sleep Bay 3 with her memory reset. Old Habitat was home to about 25 people. Sophie was the surgeon of the colony and probably the leader. At some point, she announced that they can't take care of the metal poisoning anymore, so she asked the colonists to reprint themselves from time to time. This wasn't a long-term solution, but it was enough to clear the sickness for a bit. They had to do this until they found a way to adapt the metals without going Macefield. On day 620, Anita and 5 others left Old Habitat in protest of Sophie's decision to end medical treatment for the sickness. They called themselves the Jubilee. They moved back to Camp 1. Anita believed that the planet tries to give them what they need for the cure through angel comms. They cut the NOAA cable between the colony and the Sleep Bay 3 to prevent the Jubilee members from getting reset, and they started experimenting with biobeds. On day 655, Nahema told Sophie that Proteus is in a huge ecological crisis and everything will collapse. The Jubilee, whose foundations were on the planet's ecosystem, were just gonna speed up things. They also mentioned Twinkle's secret and that they won't get rescued. They found and studied the Axum Ruins as well, but they couldn't see the displays. They knew they had to adapt. The turbine of the power generator was broken, they wanted to repair it, but the basic scanner wasn't able to scan the structure, so they had to upgrade it. Tuba, Singh, Mel and Iso were testing Nahema's upgraded scanner, but Axum tailings attacked them. They were reprinted at base camp, except Iso, because the tailings took him, so Sophie asked Ruby to go and get the scanner and help Iso, but she got attacked by Needler Mangoes. She was in a tadpole with their only depth module. On day 755, Dr. Wu admits that Anita and Sophie were right about the Proteovirus and Macefield. He was studying the bloom and he said that the bloom strain of Proteovirus causes Macefield syndrome. On day 758, there was a riot. Shep and Mantis blew up the biobeds at Old Habitat. The entire building was on fire, so NOAA started flooding the base. Some of the colonists died in the explosion, some of them drowned, and some of them could escape. After the explosion, Sophie told Ganzo to bring the survivors to Tadpole Pens. Dr. Wu drowned after the explosion 235,000 hours ago. This was on the colony's 758th day. 758 days is 18,192 hours. If we assume that a day on Proteus is 24 hours long, that means the colony's first log day was about 253,192 hours, or 10,549 days, or nearly 29 years ago. Gonzo fled to Tadpole Pens with 9 other survivors. Tuba went back to Camp 1, but she got trapped by a marrow breach, and Ruby got also attacked. Sophie and Nahema took the tadpoles and the control room was locked. Gonzo's group felt a pull to the hot cave. They knew it was the maze field, but there was a biobed in the bottom of that cave at base camp, so it was not a really bad idea. Or at least they thought it wasn't. Zip died at the bottom of that cave back then, and she had a Kurultai access key. If they had got that key, they could have gained access to the control room, so they went down to the hot cave to find Zip's access key and synchronize themselves with the biobed down there. And Gonzo decided to come back for Ruby later. It was a good plan, but it didn't turn out really well. Everyone's maze field was triggered and everyone died. Only Gonzo and Twinkle were reprinted, and everyone else was marked as do not reprint. They decided not to search for Ruby because Twinkle was never outside before, so they went to search for the Jubilee instead. A bit later, after escaping some tailings, Twinkle told Gonzo that she had never been out before and she wasn't adapted because Sophie asked her to keep a secret. Gonzo thanked Twinkle that she didn't let him go and look for Ruby, because probably they all were marked as do not reprint. If they had died, they would have got reset. Meanwhile, Gonzo and Twinkle were trying to survive and find the Jubilee. Sophie was chasing Nahema. Sophie left a copy of her mind in a biobed at Tadpole Pens to warn us about Nahema's plan for wiping out the whole colony. Sophie's ghost also tells us that it's not the bloom that causes Macefield, but the World Tree. She also mentions that we might be the last humans in the universe. Near the Axum Observatory we can find Nahema's personal message to Sophie. In that message, Nahema says that she had to destroy the colony because Noah would have just started creating copies every day. A new, clear, Macefield-free, fully restored colonist every single day. This isn't a lie. Nahema knew that Sophie would help Noah do that because this was the only long-term solution for their problems and the key to the colony's survival. But Nahema couldn't let that happen. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and subscribe. See you in the next one.